an enlightened one. I don't fall subject to the realm of religion or the things that come under mind control. I'm free from that. I'm free to walk out the life that was afforded to me, and I would be the very creator of my reality, and I'm looking for someone to agree with me. And the more people I get to agree with me, the more our lives will begin to change. Collectively. This is why I spend so much time going this route. No matter what, no matter how many people show up, I'm going to teach the same way. Because it will be you who receive this message. And if, in fact, it would become a part of you so to the point that you make a choice and a decision to say, today is the first day of the rest of my life. Forgetting those things which are behind. I press towards the prize, for the mark of the prize of the high calling, which is in Christ, which is in the divine matrix, which is in the field of possibilities that I can have or be anything that I choose and decide to be. Your thinking has been hijacked. Oh, I said something right there. I said your thinking has been hijacked. You are thinking thoughts that someone pre-programmed you to think. You've got to be delivered from those thoughts. You're living a life that was pre-programmed for you to live by the thinkers who thought for you before you even came into this physical dispensation. The thinkers who had already set up that if you would grow up in Roseland and you would only see this type of atmosphere, if you could never leave Chicago and see that just going down south that there's a different experience. If you couldn't leave this United States of America and go across the waters to experience true culture, if you could not just get out of your present reality, that we could almost say exactly how much you will be worth on your dying bed. That you won't have savings. You won't even understand what true wealth is. That you would have squandered every valuable relationship that you could have had because you are living a self-sabotaging, disempowering, and limited subconscious program. That subconscious program has been given to you by the powers that be, those who have thought for you and now have implored or enforced a way of thinking onto you. But the beautiful aspect of what we're talking about today, Charles, is by way of a message like this, you can literally be freed from the bondage of someone else thinking your thoughts. You can become the creator God intended you to be. The Most High God, the intelligence of the universe, the personality that put together the equations of the universe. So to the point that the Fibonacci sequence and all of these geometrical things that we're experiencing, the numbers of the universe are so perfect that it came from a mind that was transitioned into you, and that we literally have yet to truly discover. We're thinking someone else's thoughts, and you've yet to go and activate your pineal gland in order for you to think higher thoughts, for you to think thoughts outside of this existence, this frequency, if you will. You can change your frequency and have an entirely different experience. Mama talks about levitating. It's just a different frequency we live under. But our minds have been pre-programmed to only deal in what we see and then respond instead of us becoming the offensive and no longer the defensive. Because we're reacting to what it is that someone else is putting us into. I love watching movies. I do. I love some of the filth that's on television. Scandal, The Blacklist, some of my favorite shows. But what is it actually doing when we watch too much of that and not balance it out? See, I'm not asking you to turn the television off completely, because 9 times out of 10, if I tell you to do that, you're going to do the opposite. And you're going to watch more of it. But what I am asking you to do is to study to show your own self-approved. Workmen need not be ashamed to rightfully divide the word of truth. Because whether you know it or not, oh, baby, religion was created to control. Jesus the Christ, Yeshua, came into this dispensation, into this earth, to do something specific. He came to show us what type of life we could be afforded if we would free ourselves of the bondage that we were under. What he did was show us what it looks like to transition into a new way of thinking. The kingdom of heaven is only a new way of thinking. The kingdom of God, he said, lives on the inside of us. So then he goes on to explain the power of agreement in this scripture. Matthew chapter 18, verse 19 through 20 says, again, I tell you, if two of you on earth, check out this, agree. Now let's look at what agreement could have actually been translated. If two on your earth harmonize together, make a symphony together, or agree about whatever, anything and everything. Did he put a limitation on that?
No, sir.
Did he put a limitation on what we could agree on?
No, sir.
He didn't say, if you have the education to back up you agreeing on you becoming a doctor, then you may ask to be a doctor and then you will be a doctor. If you have the background of having rich and not being in poverty or prosperity, then you could ask for more prosperity and it will be granted if someone would agree. No, he says you could ask whatever you want. Why? Because the only people that are standing between us and that thing that we want is us and our thinking. Thoughts create things. The thoughts that you have been thinking have created the life that you have been leading. And when you begin to change your thoughts about yourself, then you will begin to have a different experience. But we talk all the time about maintaining the modified state, because maintaining the modified state says that you believe in the thought that you're thinking. And you're giving yourself time enough to recreate DNA to match the very thought or the imaginative picture you have or the design for your life, for you to now become the very design. And now from that DNA, from your heart that matches the emotions, that match the thinking, you will ask whatever you want. And the universe has got to respond. And don't find nobody to agree with you. What happens when you have come to the place where you are firmly persuaded, firmly convinced that you are what you say you are? Nothing will have you to change your mind. As a matter of fact, you will make sure that you are in proximity to people who remind you of what you say about you. And when you find people to agree with you, what they are actually doing is sending a frequency that pierces your cells all the way down to the mitochondria, that hits your hormone response element, that is your DNA. And it begins to transfer or transfigure your DNA into the very thing that you want to see. But we're going to go a little further. Because prior to the 1990s, they thought that DNA primarily was to create proteins. But they did experiments. And some Nobel laureates, you know, the Nobel Peace Prize laureates, they did a study and experiments to find out the true essence of DNA. And they found out that DNA is designed to do exactly what the heart was designed to do. The heart was designed to expel an electromagnetic frequency that brings out of the field of possibilities, out of the divine matrix, out of the Christ, out of the universe that you want to experience. But you can't fool the heart. The problem is we have people who are now bringing our heart to feel something that is affecting our DNA. Our heart feels and it pumps out hormones that create certain types of DNA. And the feelings that we have been feeling are feelings of fear, feelings of sadness, feelings of depression, feelings of hopelessness. And by way of what is pumping out from your heart, you are recreating DNA of sadness, fear, depression, and hopelessness. You are recreating DNA or cells of sadness, fear, depression, hopelessness, and stress. Those cells recreate themselves until it becomes a tumor. Those tumors become cancerous tumors, and this is the source of cancer. The source of any disease in the body is inflammation. And when you are not living out a life on purpose or living out your own life design, you are setting the body up to create more and more inflammation and more disease. More and more cells that are not conducive to life bringing, but literally are conducive to death. Are you still with me? Am I taking y'all too deep?
No, sir. Come on.
We need to understand this, because although I told you death and life in the power of the tongue, you didn't believe it. Because you thought that you were just saying something, and that something that you're saying is not doing anything biologically or anatomically or to your physiological makeup, but it was. It was doing something to you psychologically. It was actually affecting your subconscious mind, which is housed in your DNA. Ooh. We found out that the subconscious mind is housed in the DNA structure of the cells, because this is what is going to emanate an electromagnetic field that also goes out into the field of possibilities and brings you exactly who you are.
Yes, sir. Come on.
Oh, I said something right there. Because you have been agreeing with somebody about something, and you are seeing the something that you've been agreeing about. What happens when we go on Facebook, or we go on Instagram, or we go on Snapchat and we like something that someone posted? See, what you don't understand is you have been hoodwinked, run amok. When you like something that someone posted, you just agreed with that they posted. You agreed with their thought, and you actually put it in print. You have actually put it it has traveled without your permission across the World Wide Web. Your agreement has no bounds now when you like someone's post. And for those of us who go through posts and like, just so you can be recognized, be careful of what you have agreed with. We live our lives by the likes of the posts that we post on social media. I'm going to say that again. We go back and check our social media page to find out how many likes I got on this that I posted. And when you do that, what you are doing is activating the power of agreement. Go back and check what you posted. You're manifesting more of it. And they set this up so you could see more of what was your thought in the first place. What was your thought? What were you thinking at the time that you posted what you posted? And then you got likes and agreement. And that you have perpetuated by way of a collective consciousness. You're creating more calamity. You're creating more foundations and faculties of fear. You're creating the very thing that is needed for the earth and the sickness of the earth to then continue to create more volcanoes, more earthquakes. Because the collective consciousness of fear has caused the earth at the very core to begin to rupture. And it's showing up all over the world, all over the globe, earthquakes. This comes from the collective consciousness of us thinking the same thing over and over and over again. And where are you being fed this? We're addicted to watching the news. We're addicted to going. Where do you get your news from? Most people don't even get their news from the news anymore. They get it from social media. And no one is caught on to it. It's a program. It's a brainwashing technique. And I have friends on the other side of the globe that want to know why Americans have to have a screen in front of them at all times. If you looked at it from the perspective of the ones who want to control your mind and really knew the thoughts that they were thinking while controlling you, you are addicted to the screen. And it draws you in because now you're under the collective consciousness of mind control, which was the purpose and the point in the first place. But those of us who would come out of that system and begin to do what our minds, our brains were created to do, and that is to be creative. The more time you spend on the screen living in someone else's reality, the less time you spend in creating your own. I'm going to say that one more time because 12 of y'all missed that one. The more time you spend watching and looking at the screen, living someone else's reality, the less time you spend creating your own. What does that mean? You literally are the architect of the design for your life, or you give that power over to someone else.
Come on.
And those of us who have the mindsets of creativity, we will be the upper echelon that begin to look at those of you who would never come out of the collective consciousness of destruction. And you have lost your creativity, and they have built camps right now for you. FEMA camps exist right now. And when they take away the very resources that you think are readily available to you, and you can't eat, take 3 days and not be able to get some food. They have predicted that you are going to go to the FEMA camps willingly. They're not going to have to trick you in going. They ain't going to have to beg you to go. They are going to give you 3 square meals a day and something to do every day because you were not creative enough to use your own mind. But then there will be those of us who have stepped outside of that collective consciousness of fear. And we realize that we can make change happen in the earth. We'll be on the outside of the FEMA camps, but we'll be creating a new world on the outside.
Come on. Come on.
They're going to give you a screen. They're going to give you the World Wide Web for free. And they are going to be broadcasting exactly what they want you to think 24 hours a day. If you want to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning and be on your phone, it will be readily available with brainwashing, mind control, propaganda. They have controlled this entire world with propaganda. What is the name? I am. You say I am. I say you are. He says you are. She says you are. Now the collective consciousness concept comes into play. Now something begins to happen to your body. You begin to recreate DNA strands of the very thing that you say you are. And you have a feeling because you have people that have agreed with you. You have 4 people that can see your vision, can see your imagination, who can see your design for life. And they speak and you feel better. Your heart then begins to excrete the hormone A and P. Now you have DNA that is also conducive to the life that you want to see. You're excreting something from your heart that makes you feel better about it. Now there's an electromagnetic field emanating from your heart that brings out of the field of possibilities, the divine matrix, the very design that you have designed. And in addition to that, there is an electromagnetic field associated with your DNA that will then begin to emanate a frequency out into the field of possibilities and the matrix to bring you the very design that you have become internally, and now we see it externally. Whoop, there it is. What are we saying here? Because you have changed your thought process, because you have woken up today and you have decided that no longer yesterday will that be your type of life. You have decided that you want a different quality of life, and you have decided it so to the point that you begin to design that life. You have imagined that type of life with no limits, with no bounds. You have decided to live the life that has been afforded to you by a way of thinking, and you have come off of your cell phone. You have come off of the television. You have decided to allow your mind to enter into the ether where all knowledge is available, where you can begin to open up the expressive aspects of who you have been created to be, and you can then begin to create on a wholly another level. You have creations that will bring about wealth. You have put yourself in a position that you no longer are expendable, but you are a commodity. This is what the design for life is supposed to be, and it won't be found on your cell phone. Most of us need to delete 98.6% of the people that are in our contact list and only deal with the 2% or the 1.4% that are left, because it's one person that's still on the fence, and you just got to let them go until they see it and they come back and they begin to agree with what you say. You can't afford at this point in your life to not have people around you agreeing with what you say, because they are either contributing to the destruction and the fear and the very thing that you are experiencing right now, or they are contributing to what it is that you want to see happening to your life. This is phenomenal news. We discovered that when it is that you are in the fight or flight mode, when you are in fear, when you are stressing, the blood that is supposed to be working in your different limbs and energizing you are going to your very gut, and it is doing something to you that is not conducive to growth. Oh, we're going to go there. I was on the phone this morning with Brother Milton, and once we discover this, once we can find out that the blood rushing to your arms or to your legs actually is doing something because of stress, and you don't have the blood where it's supposed to be, conducive to what it is we need to see happen in your life, conducive to the growth of the limbs, the growth of the internal body that is going to have an expression externally. Did I go too deep for you? No, sir. Come on, brother. Teach. And unfortunately, we've been fed this propaganda that says we need to wait on the Lord. No, sir. This propaganda that says we need to wait. He may not come when you want him, but he's always on time. No. We've been fed propaganda that says that we're going to have our abundant life in the great by and by. When we die, then we'll go to heaven. Heaven is right now. Heaven is the experience that happens between two people. We create heaven when you begin to agree with what I say. When you agree with my life design and I agree with your life design, we have created heaven on earth. Yes, sir. Because heaven on earth says that the field of possibilities is waiting to recreate by way of the molecules and the atoms and the protons, the neutrons and electrons to create the very reality that is your reality right now. What is true reality? Is my reality Abdullah's reality right now? Because we live in a 3D holographic world. So my reality is it is entirely different from his reality. Is he having the same experience I'm having? Absolutely not. But when we begin to think in that manner, then we won't worry about what's happening on the other side of the world. Because watching the news can change you. You cannot change what's happening on the news until you first change. And then you come into a higher mindset that there are people around the world that are all actually coming into the same type of minds. I know they ain't in your community. I know they ain't even in your family. I know that you won't talk to them right now. But if you would do the work to raise yourself to a higher standard, if you would do the work to raise your consciousness to the place where now you can agree with me and agree with people like me, we can change the world. But that's the only way. You don't change the world by praying. You change the world by changing and then praying. We've been praying on the outside instead of changing who we are on the inside to qualify us. I don't need you praying for me if all you think is fear, because all you're doing is getting ready to emanate more of who you are into the atmosphere. Get fixed first. And I don't mean that way. I mean, go in and recreate who you are at a cellular level. Recreate who you are with your DNA strand. Recreate who you are by living a life designed, by imagining a better life for you. And finding somebody who loves you enough to agree with you. That's the true power of love. It ain't sex. And we didn't misconstrue the whole concept of sex. The very orgasmic experience was when we come out of a place, and that is probably the most creative time. But we're looking for it to overcompensate for other things that were supposed to be internal. Yes. You got to make up your mind. Yes. That's what this message is about. Yes. Making up your mind and then finding someone to agree with the new person you say you are. Yes, sir. Come on. Not that you are going to be. Because as soon as you make up your mind, Brother Muhammad, the day you make up your mind, you begin to become the very thing that you are. I am a billionaire. I am. I am not going to be. I am. How do I become that I am? I become it internally. I say it over and over again until I get the feeling associated with it. I begin to walk like a billionaire. I have the thoughts of a billionaire. I begin to drive in my imagination what I will drive when I have the funds to drive. I feel good flying down the highway in my 500 SL. I feel the wind going through my perm. I can feel the wind going through my fingertips as I hold my hands out. I have a feeling associated with the thought and the vision, and that feeling is causing something to take place in my heart, and it emanates an electromagnetic frequency because I'm thinking it, I'm feeling it, you agreeing with it, it is. And that's how it happens. It happens on the inside, and when you begin to put boundaries on what is it that is your capability, what is it that is the possibility for your life, you have just gone back into the destructive nature of the program. The destructive nature of what they said you couldn't have by putting it in front of you on a screen and feeding you what they want you to think as you scroll through Instagram, as you scroll through Facebook, as you scroll through Snapchat, as you scroll through all of the social media that they put before you, as you anticipate power coming back on, as you anticipate why it was that they said scandal would be no more, as you trying to figure out when is the next episode of your favorite program coming on so you can sit there and be programmed by what's in front of you. While you run to the movie theater to see movies that they say were created for children, but if you look further and deeper, you'll see that they're preparing our children for more violence. And then our children have more violent tendencies than we had because Mama didn't even let us watch Tom and Jerry. I thought about that as I was doing a study. And it is that reason that I wasn't subjected to so much violence watching cartoons or watching television at all, that you can do things to me and my first thought ain't to kill you. But because some of us were put in a position that our mothers did not take the toy guns away. I spent years upon years trying to take toy guns out of my children's hands. I spent years upon years trying to make sure that they didn't play video games, that they were murdering each other and murdering women and murdering this, that, and the third. I spent years trying to do it and fighting a program. And then we come to the place where you're trying to figure out why these tendencies are in your children. You did not spend the time. You talk about care enough. What have they been exposed to? And how do we fix the problem? You can't take the TV away from them. Mama did. You can't take TV away from these children. You can't take social media away from them.
Come on.
You can't take movies away from them. They can get free movies online.
Yeah.
Whatever they so desire to see. You can't take pornography away from them. It used to be a time that you used to put in your birth date to get to pornographic sites. Now all you got to do is go www. And it goes right to whatever type of filthiness that you want to see.
Yes, come on, teach.
And then it goes to the point where you don't even have to put it in. You're surfing the web, and they have judged your entire psyche by what you search. And then they give you a little teaser.
Yes, sir.
To see if you're going to take the bait. This is an algorithm. This is not someone sitting back and saying, I'm going to pre-program Rod.
No, sir.
There's an algorithm, which means if you click on this type of thing enough, then your mind has now been set to then, if you have an option to click on this, you will. But if we get you to click on that, you'll click on this. And if you click on that, you'll definitely click on this. If you click on that, oh, we got you. Now we can infiltrate your mind with filthiness and perversion that'll keep you from using that part of your mind to create. Because we've bogged it down and over-sexualized. Our children are experimenting with same sex. And you're wondering where they got it from. They were not born that way. They have been over-sexualized by what we have allowed to infiltrate their minds. The more they begin to look at certain things and images on television. Shonda Rhimes got homosexuality in every one of her programs. And she is the #1 producer on television right now. Why do you think that is? They told Shonda, if you write homosexuality in a sense and an overcast of sexuality and debauchery in her programs, we will give you the freedom to have as many programs as you want. She made Olivia Pope every black girl's hero. And then made Olivia Pope a whore. Olivia then slept with the white president. Olivia slept with the white president's boy. Olivia then slept with the little Mexican that was shooting on TV. Olivia then slept with XYZ. And then they said it was Olivia's power that had her to be able to do that. And now our children are walking around feeling empowered to emulate Olivia Pope. Oh, let's talk about how to get away with murder. The same thing. They're getting away with murder. And she, homosexual, heterosexual, and she is powerful. What are we teaching our young black women? How y'all getting a hold of this? We can go across the board. Cyrus Bean, the most powerful man in the White House. And he is a what? Homosexual. What are we saying here? You know, 40 years ago, this wouldn't have been on television. And so they said, if we can destroy the minds, if we can over-sexualize these children, the over-sexualization of the children. I saw a young man with his pants all the way down his ankles today. It took everything in me not to ask him, boy, why are your pants all the way down? And we can see your behind. Yes, sir. Took everything in me not to ask him. But this is what's going on in our society. And nobody's talking about it to the point that we have a resolution. Pretty much the thought provokers and the thinkers in the world, they've given up on you. They've given up on our children. They said they have just been subjected to mind control and they want more of it. So you and I, the thinkers of the world, will step outside of that because they already have a plan for them.
Yes.
Oh, y'all better listen to me today.
Sure better.
They have a plan for the people who will stay on their cell phones all day, every day.
Yes.
They're going to give them unlimited everything. You thought unlimited everything was accidental?
No, sir.
They will give you unlimited everything
Yes.
in order to keep you from thinking the thoughts we're talking about. And then even if you do, Brother Charles, break out and say, I get it. I'm no longer going to live in the program. Try to find somebody who will agree with you.
Yes, sir.
It's going to be far and few in between.
Yes, sir.
This is what I love about our community.
Yes, sir.
Those of you who are faithful to the community and don't get distracted. Don't deal with the evil. What do we talk about? If thy whole body, if thy eyes be full of evil, what was the evil? The distractions. What was the evil? The labors associated with the distractions. What are you missing when you're not here? I take time to lay a foundation for my own life to change. And then I love you so much that I come to share with you that at no cost. The unfortunate thing about humankind, and I learned this from my pastor many years ago, they will not value it unless they pay for it. I didn't believe it. It took me 10 years. I'll let you wrap your mind around that. It took me 10 years to come to the realization that people will not take valuable things for free. I have made filet mignon roast. I have brought some of the most valuable things to you and offered them to you at no cost. And you treat them as if it's trash. Y'all got to see this. But I will tell you this. This that we teach here, Brother Lewis, is valuable information. You will not go on YouTube and see no black man teaching what I'm teaching you. Try it. And we are so on the cutting edge of new information that has never been presented. I am a billionaire. My DNA is that of a billionaire. My mind is that of a billionaire. But you know the thing that makes me a billionaire more than anything?
Come on.
The very concept of love. Billionaire is only a reference to my worth because you have to put a number on it usually for the mind to think. And I don't mind doing that. But I in no way, shape, or form am looking for a number. I'm looking to live life on my terms. That I'll find a community and a group of people. Because this was prophesied. That the tribe is waiting on you. You cannot be bound by your love for people who don't love you back.
Teach, big brother.
I said something there. And unfortunately, I've got to be the message I teach. Let's learn how to agree with one another's design, imagination, and our life more abundantly. It is mandatory from this point on. Language has got to change. We've got to come out of that program. I'm guilty. I go and I check on YouTube and Facebook and sometimes Instagram. I know that's backwards. But I spend time educating myself. I'm going to say this and I'm closing. One of the most profound scriptures in the Bible, Hosea chapter 4 and 6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Yeah, knowledge of something. But it's the knowledge of what it is the powers that be want you to think. They want you to think fear. They want you to think destruction. They want you to think wars. They want you to think calamity. And the more you think it and the more others think it, the more it manifests in this 3D holographic presentation. Because it's not even real. Our five senses work in conjunction with our brain to have us believe that this is real. It's not. We are light beings. That's it. Light beings. You are made up of photons. That's it. And what you see and experience is as a result of the five senses that our brains allow us to see. Other creatures in the animal kingdom have different allocation of their senses. There are animals who have several eyes. There are animals who, bats, who literally deal with an entire different frequency. Have you ever wondered why it was that birds in the air switch direction all at the same time in harmony? They don't live out the same experience that we live out. And when you begin to see beyond this, that is the program, that is the brainwash, and you begin to design your life. Chapter 1, what do you want? And then you find someone to agree. Organize the right relationships conducive to what it is that is your design for your life. I'm waiting on God to reveal. God is not going to reveal anything to you. He already did it. Now it's time for you to free your mind, and the rest will follow. Somebody give God.